that for the last year and a half, the country has been stagnated and anticipating the election of a chairman to the GECOM, the Guyana Elections Commission. And you would know that it has excited, this topic has excited a lot of national and international attention, with persons being very attentive to what was happening in this area, particularly because Guyana has risen from a past where we were known for things like rigged elections and injustices that came along with rigged elections, the undemocratic rule of our country for many, many years. We were known in the Caribbean and wider afield to be that kind of country. And because of the inhumanity of that and how inhumane that was to the people who lived here and how just unjust that was, with the rising of many voices across this country and across the world, led by then leader of the opposition, Chelly Jagan, the Carter formula was created. Now, what is the Carter formula? That was President Carter from the United States coming to Guyana and saying, listen, we can no longer tolerate party paramountcy and one party rigging an election and stealing from people their very right, their innate born right to vote, their human right to choose a government of that they want, their constitutional right to have their votes counted. We can no longer tolerate the stealing, the theft from Guyanese people of this very human right. And they came up with several different formulas that would be put in place to ensure that Guyanese were treated like human beings and their votes counted, and then the consequences of that benefiting the country. One of those things that they came up with was that there would be an elections commission, and that elections commission would be balanced in a way where there would be 3 from the opposition, 3 from the government nominated to the commission, and then a chairman would be chosen who was through a collaborative effort. The leader of the opposition would submit to the president a list of 6 names, from which list the president would choose the chairman of GECOM. For all the time that the People's Progressive Party Civic was in office, and the time came for a GECOM chairman to be named, on every single occasion, the first time that a list was submitted, the PPPC chose names from that first list and said, these are decent Guyanese people who will who can manage to run the Guyana Elections Commission, and so here is our nominee. Here is our choice from that list. President Granger himself was a nominee on that list. When this new government came into office, they started fiddling and modeling and doing all sorts of fancy footwork with the Constitution and the constitutional provisions, and finding interpretations and claiming that they had different interpretations and so on for the Constitution. Now, the problem with that is, now in retrospect, it is clear that President Granger and his cabinet, all of them, always intended to choose their own person for the Guyana Elections Commission chairman. They always intended that. Now it is very clear that that was their position. So all the meandering through the last year and a half, all the fancy footwork I just spoke about, oh, this list isn't suitable because we want fit and proper, and this list isn't suitable because we don't want religious people, and we don't want activists, and we don't want, all of that was them playing the fool, and really just being deceitful and deceptive, because all along they knew that they were going to pick their own person. It is unfortunate that on a night when we should be lighting diyas to dispel darkness, we are met with this very dark news that President Granger is going to name this person. Here is what is even worse. Not only has he thrown out the Carter formula, not only is he being unconstitutional and acting illegally, what he also did was call the leader of the opposition, President Jagdeo, to a meeting at 6 o'clock tonight, and at 8:30 tonight, the chairman is going to be sworn in. Now, if you're so proud of your chairman that you have chosen, why are you choosing to do this in the dead of night, in darkness, when no court can be approached to stop it before it happens? And this is the kind of behavior that we have seen. I think the PPP has been very cautious with their language so far. But if you look at the history of this government, they have been lying to us from the beginning days that they went into office. You would recall in August of 2015, there was a leak that there would be an increase in salaries. In August of 2015, various ministers, including the Prime Minister and Minister Trotman and so on, came out and said, no, that's not true, the leak is amusing, there's no truth to it. In September of 2015, there was a surreptitiously gazetted order that the ministers would get a raise in pay. Just like the leak had suggested that they had just finished denying publicly, that would be retroactive to July. And in September they said to you too, well, we could have taken more, so to hell with you. You should be glad that we only took 50%. Trust us. And that has continued over the months. Ministers saying things and then those things being totally untrue. It culminates tonight in President Granger saying all along that he was going to pay attention to these lists and give them due consideration. These lists of highly qualified persons who are more qualified than the president himself, than many of his ministers. He has disregarded all those persons, and all along he knew he was doing that because he had this plan to name his own person. On the 12th of June this year, just before I give my friend Bishop Edghill to you, on the 12th of June this year, the last meeting that the president and the leader of the opposition, Bar Jagdeo, in which they engaged, there was a joint statement coming out of that meeting, and I wish to remind you of that statement, my friends. It said that if there couldn't be agreement on this third list, then the parties would nominate high-level teams, both sides, and they would come together to establish a formula for the way forward. That's what the president sat down and said. He issued that in a statement. He said himself in many statements, if you would go back into the archives, where he said, I don't know why Jagdeo was saying I want to name my own person. That's not so. All along, he had this plan to name his own person. So tonight, probably at 8:30 tonight, which was when they had planned it for, in the cover of darkness, on the darkest night, President Granger is swearing in, I think, an 86-year-old man to be the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission. That person was never nominated by the leader of the opposition. That person does not find favor with the leader of the opposition simply because he did not go through the process. And the PPPC has made it very clear that we will not sit by. We will not sit by while the democratic gains that were made in this country because of things like that Carter formula I spoke of earlier, and the benefits that came from those democratic gains and democratic leadership, we will not sit by and allow the PNC's APNU and the AFC, who is voiceless apparently, to steal that from the people of Guyana, whether those people are PNC, PPP, AFC, anybody. We are standing up for everybody, and we are calling on all persons to help us protect the gains we have made by making sure that the president and his cabinet understand that this is not going to be allowed. We will be challenging this appointment in the courts. We will be approaching all the international bodies to let them know of the undemocratic nature of this unilateral pick that the president has engaged in tonight. And we will be relying on all of you, my friends, my brothers, my sisters, to help in this fight, to take our country back from this.
Thank you, my friend Priyamani Chan. Viewers, a very good evening to you. This is Diwali night, when our Hindu brothers and sisters and many other Guyanese celebrate the triumph of good over evil, where we seek to elevate our thoughts to a higher level, rid ourselves of all anger and malice and bitterness and acts of forgiveness and cleansing and all the other good virtues that we can talk about. Think about it. Number one, why did President Granger choose such a day like today to create such a dark cloud over Guyana? Is it coincidental? Was it deliberate, or was it by choice? And while you're thinking about that, I want you to also think that the day when the Honorable Dr. Rupert Rupnarai was removed from office as Minister of Education and domiciled into the office of the President, into something that we haven't heard about since the announcement was made, and in the Parliament he has no real status in terms of ministry because that has not been gazetted. You know what day that was? The same day when the country remembered the assassination of Walter Rodney. So, the day in June 2017, when the country remembers the assassination of Walter Rodney, that icon of the WPA's only representative in the coalition cabinet is removed from office and domiciled to the office of the President. It could have happened any other day. But why did it happen on the day when the country remembers the assassination of Walter Rodney? Today, Diwali Day, when good is supposed to triumph over evil, when our brothers and sisters in the city, the coast, throughout the length and breadth of this nation, who are of a particular religious persuasion, when the messages that came from all of the various groups that were published in the newspaper spoke about the virtues of Guyanese living together and allowing the principles of Diwali to be inculcated in their lives every day, the President chose to call the leader of the opposition, not for a discussion like he thought he was going there, but to barely inform him. I am going to be naming unilaterally retired Justice James Patterson as the chairman of GECOM. Colleagues, if he had said that to us at 2 o'clock this afternoon, my colleagues like the Attorney at Law Priyamani Chan and former Attorney General Anand Nandalal and many of the other legal minds in the PPPC would have approached the courts and we would have had an injunction because this is a violation of the Constitution of Guyana. So the President chooses, when the courts are closed, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, the judges are all gone about their business, it's hard to get them to come out. You have to draft this, and he swears the man in 2.5 hours after telling the leader of the opposition, I'm choosing and I'm appointing this man. So I must subscribe to the views expressed by my colleague, Madam Priyamani Chan, that this was a carefully orchestrated, well-concocted, diabolical plan to hoist and to produce an outcome that is pleasing to the PNC-led APNU coalition government. And the people of Guyana must be asking themselves, where is Moses Nagomutu, Kemraj Ramtatan, Raphael Trotman, and all of the AFC 12 that is in the parliament?
They were in the same cabinet that made this
decision. They're the same cabinet that made this decision. All of these people who said they were fighting for democracy and they will never sell out the rights of Guyanese people, where are they when the PNC high-handedly chose a candidate in Congress place, agreed among themselves at their central committee, and the cabinet had to baptize it, and the President is going ahead and doing this. If what I just said is not the truth, let the AFC take the protest public tomorrow or even tonight. If Moses Nagamutu, Kemra Dramtata, Raphael Trotman, Cathy Hughes, Dominic Gaskin, Noel Holder, and the whole group of them who are in the cabinet and in the parliament is not in agreement with this PNC hoisted decision on this nation, let them come out tonight in protest. And if they can't come out by tomorrow, you know that they're trying to save face in any other thing that they say after now.
But what would be worse is if we see photographs tomorrow
of them being present.
Persons being present.
I just that is fair.
This unconstitutional act. But you know, let's get back to the pick of the president, his hand-picked person. Who is this person? And
this gentleman is a member of the executive. He is one of the 5 named advisors to the Attorney General. He is on the payroll of the APNU AFC government. Right. You remember those 5 people who formed this council of advisors to the Attorney General? Right. Justice James Patterson is one of the 5. He's on the payroll of the government. He
also, let's just be clear, and this is not about the person, this is about whether this person is fit and proper, as defined by President Granger himself. So this is a person that was chosen twice by the president, handpicked twice by the president. One to lead the COI into the prison uproar, the riot.
That was last year's prison uproar.
As last year's prison uproar. And secondly, to advise the government and the Attorney General. So he has delegated powers from the president on matters of legal business, including perhaps the GECOM issues. That's the first thing. The second thing is the president had said to to leader of the opposition, Barry Jagdeo, that he wanted young people. And I suspect he was responding to the criticism you would recall from many persons, but I remember it from my own heroine, Andai, who had written to the newspapers and said this government seems to have penchant for choosing only old black men to be in position. Apparently, young people, non-black people, and women had no place in any, they were not valued to be chosen in positions. And that was written by an activist in this country called Andai, very early on in the government's term. And the president had said he wanted young people. So the leader of the opposition was very keen on naming a lot of young people to the list of nominees that he had. And the third thing is, this person is a pastor, as far as I understand it.
Yes.
And the president was clear, I don't want any activists.
No religious
I don't want
leader.
any religious people. In fact, I was wondering, you know, I wasn't that involved in this process, but I was wondering, so many of us have so many views on issues, and it's actually our right, not even our right alone, our duty to speak upon those issues. And then here you were going to be punished if you were an activist speaking up for sex abuse victims, or an activist speaking up for women's rights, or people who were ethnically discriminated against. You were being punished for that. And here is the president choosing an 86-year-old man who is who is working for the president, very close to the president and the PNC and the party that he belongs to, and who is religiously, openly affiliated. Now, none of those things by themselves would be wrong.
But
none of them would. I would not have a problem with any of those.
The president did not just say this. He put it in writing.
Right. He is the person who gave these
guidelines.
Written guidelines. These eligibility criteria, and he himself has broken it now. In this unconstitutional, very dangerous move for Guyana. And it's almost saying to people, we don't care what you feel, we don't care how you think, we don't care how this is going to affect you, we will do what we want to do. And my friends, you know what this will do? This is going to cause serious problems that we've already been seeing. We know that our economy has been in a tailspin. We know that people trying to buy US and Canadian can't get it, or if you get it in extremely exorbitant prices. We know that businesses' imports have gone down. We know that the productive sectors have shown serious problems with producing the numbers and quantities that they have been producing before. And we've heard from the finance minister himself and from our international financial institutions that we're doing terribly, we're doing very poorly. Everybody's waiting on oil. So now you go and you do something that is going to cause great instability in the country. Who, in their right mind, will come here to invest in our country so that our people can get jobs, so that money can circulate, so that Guyanese can live this good life that President Granger promised? Who is going to come here and invest? So this very unconstitutional thing
this
has
action,
bad consequences.
This action by President Granger, the most moderate person in this country would be hard-pressed not to view it as an act of provocation. This is an act of provocation. President Granger's action of unilaterally naming whomsoever, much less this candidate, who you've already stated by his own criteria is not qualified, based upon the president's own guidelines, is an act of provocation. It's like saying, do what you want. I'm going to have my own way. And you know what is the signal that the president is sending here tonight? I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to stay in office as long as I want to stay in office, because I'm going to put people in places who are going to protect my interests. Because this gentleman is an operative of the coalition. How could he be the chairman of GECOM? His only mandate would be there to join with the 3 nominated members of the PNC, that is on the Elections Commission, to carry out the dictates. He's beholding to the president. He's not an independent operator. He's beholding to the president. His own existence, his lifeline, is beholding to the president. Ever since they came into office, he has been the beneficiary of the largesse of the state through the APNU AFC administration.
Well,
this gentleman is...
I have to say I don't know him. I don't know the gentleman.
Well,
what I
know
could
him.
say, well, that's the thing. Well, but that's why we make a great team here tonight. But what I could say is he didn't come through the process. And the process, like I said, came about not because somebody felt like landing in Guyana on a plane and creating a process. Guyana suffered as a country from rigged elections.
So 28
that is what
years.
we were known for. People would faithfully walk and go and place their X on that ballot paper and put it in the ballot box. Like my grandfather in Maikoni, where we knew everybody in Maikoni was voting for the PPP, and the PNC would give themselves 110% of the vote in Maikoni. That is how vulgar it was. And that is why the Carter formula came about, which said 3 from one party, 3 from the other party, or 3 from the opposition, 3 from the government. If you have more parties making up the opposition, 3 would come from them, 3 from the government. And this chairman would be a person that was chosen through a collaborative effort. The president has just thrown that through the window and chosen his own person who is very partisan and who does not meet the president's own criteria.
Well, we have to ask the question, what makes Justice James Patterson more qualified than Justice V.S. Roy or Justice William Ramlal? What makes him more qualified than Tini Husti, a renowned attorney at law who's on the list? What makes him more qualified than Nahir Segar, I think is the way her name is pronounced, or Magistrate Christina Prasad? These are all legal.
Onej Waldron. These are people who are renowned for their brilliance, their qualities in organization, their ability to be fair, their interest in country. These are young people who have chosen to stay here, who could have made life in other countries. These are people who are all eminently qualified. Joe Singh, who was previously a chairman at GECOM.
Yes.
Norman McLean,
Jerry Govaya, Ramesh Duku,
Arjun. These are all people who are so very qualified. All of them thrown into a garbage bin, declared to be deplorable, unfit and improper by the president. And you know what's sad? He did this to 18 Guyanese, knowing very well that he was always going to throw them into a dustbin that made them unfit and improper.
But his own criteria.
Along, he knew he was going to.
But his own criteria that he set out for the person to be GECOM chairman has to be a person with wide electoral knowledge. Retired Justice James Patterson has never conducted an election. He does not have wide electoral knowledge.
Well, he's 85. We don't know if he conducted some things.
Maybe an election at the PNC headquarters in Commerce Place, but we don't know about elections anywhere. But let's be very objective here.
He would have participated in elections before. I'm not sure as what and how.
The issue here, if it is true that you wanted somebody with wide electoral knowledge, retired Major General Joseph, who conducted elections as chairman of GECOM, fit that bill. Fit that bill. And he was on the list submitted by the leader of the opposition. So you have discarded the whole criteria that you set up because you wanted to reject any name coming from leader of the opposition. And then the person that you pick does not even fit your own criteria.
That is the insult to Guyanese on this Diwali night. That is the insult to Guyanese. Even your own criteria, your candidate that you have named and appointed cannot stand up to scrutiny for. And so that really just says to us where we are as a country, what we have to do, and what the message we need to send very clearly to this new government is, this is not the 1980s. This is not the 1980s. We are not going to sit by as Guyanese and allow our human right to choose a government to be stolen from us. We are not going to sit by as Guyanese and allow old President Granger and his equally old cabinet to run this young country with its young people into the ground. We're not going to stand by and let that happen.
I think this is a good time for us to talk about what we're going to do. I think it's a good time for us to start talking about what we will do as a result of this action of President Granger placing democracy on the siege. Leader of the opposition has already declared, we want to reiterate that tonight. In all of the RDCs where we are in control, and in all of the NDCs where we are in control, and remember we control 7 regions, and I think 52 or 54 out of the 71 NDCs, we are going into a mode of non-cooperation. President Granger cannot insult the Guyanese people. The opposition represents, according to GECOM, which is still to be challenged in the courts and to be heard, 49.2% of the people of this country voted for the PPPC according to GECOM's declared results in 2015. And you're going to look at almost 50% of the people of Guyana says, you go to wherever you want to go to. Jump in the lake. I'm going to do what I want to do because this is about maintaining power. I'm going to take a hand-picked PNC activist who operates from my office, who's on my payroll, who is beholden to me, and I'm going to swear him in as the chairman at 8:30 in the night, when the Nandalals and the Manichans and the Anamayas and the other attorneys can't get to the court, so it's already a done deal, and you could take it from there and do whatever you want to do. We have to resist this. This is an act of provocation, and it does not end tonight. It's time for mobilization. We will be going to the court, so I want you to talk.
We will be going to the court, but here's the thing. The reason I believe that we have to resist it at all levels is because at the apex of this decision is a breaching
of the Constitution,
a vulgar disregard for constitutional provisions that have been very clear and that have been interpreted by the Guyanese courts. Only recently, Justice Roxanne George, acting Chief Justice, gave a decision on a matter that was filed not by the PPP, but by a private citizen, and where the Bar Association joined as persons who were interested. She handed down a decision that said, you have to give reasons when you reject these people from the list. The president has to give reasons that fit and proper, the category fit and proper was as equal as the category of judge and retired judge, and give a very thorough and comprehensive decision. In the face of that, President Granger has thrown that through the window, that decision, and done something that is totally unconstitutional. Now, if the head of our country is going to be unconstitutional, you can't ask every citizen thereafter to just follow along with this and behave as though this never happened and continue to run the country. Especially when we know, given the history of this country and given President Granger's own fascination and love for the former dictator, President Burnham, universally and widely known as a dictator, the nation has to be suspicious about where we're going. And so there is going to be, and that is why that formed the basis of the opposition leaders' call for an absolute, or a declaration that there would be absolutely no cooperation with this government at any level until this unconstitutionality is reversed.
But there's a big issue here that the people of Ghana need to know. The president, neither the APNU AFC cabinet cannot be trusted. And I repeat, cannot be trusted. The last meeting that was held between President Granger and leader of the opposition, Dr. Barja, they agreed that if they're having difficulty in selecting a person from the third list, a committee would be activated to resolve those issues. President Granger never said to the leader of the opposition before this afternoon, your third list is rejected. Let the committee meet so we could resolve the issues. The committee to resolve the issues, it was never convened. You have chosen your person, you have him on standby for swearing in at 8:30, and at 6 o'clock, you say to the leader of the opposition, I have made my decision. Is this the kind of person that can be trusted? This is an issue about confidence. When you're going to lead a country, all 747,000 of Guyanese that live here, and I'm sure a lot of people in the diaspora, they are listening, you have to be able to be trusted by the people. When you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. If you're not going to do something, you're not going to do it. We have called out the president, saying, one of the reasons why you are rejecting these people is because you always had in mind to name somebody unilaterally. He says, where do you get that from? I'm going to stay with the Constitution. I'm going to go with the process. In good faith, with all of the difficulties that were faced, we submitted faithfully in keeping with the letter and spirit of the Constitution 3 lists. Considering all of the dynamics that were taking place in the Guyanese society, even the president's own, I would say, sun dancing on these issues. And this is the way you behave. But then the bottom line is, you cannot be trusted. And I want to come back.
I thought before we start taking calls, because I know you're all anxious to ask us questions and hear, and I am very anxious to hear from you. But at every point, every time the president said or tried to frustrate the process, the PPP Civic, and I want you to remember this, has always been, on every occasion, very cooperative. First list was thrown out. We were asked for a second list was given. We were asked for a third list was given. At some point during that, we were asked to go meet the Attorney General to determine what we understood fit and proper to mean and how that placed itself in priority. Mr. Nandalal and I went to the Attorney General's office 2 times. We communicated by letters several times. Every time the President asked us to do something to fulfill what we believe was the spirit of the Carter formula, we did it. Because we believe in democracy, we believe this was the President of the day, however he got there, even if we were challenging how he got there. We did what we were asked to because we believe it is important to keep our democratic institutions alive and to follow the letter and spirit of the constitutional provisions and the intent of creating those provisions. And so I think what happened is the president felt that at some point we would get frustrated and not do all these hurdles he was asking us to jump through, and at no point did we get frustrated. Every time he said, I want a new list, we gave a new list. I want you to visit the Attorney General, we visited the Attorney General. People took him to court, the courts handed down their judgment. Everything that was asked of the leader of the opposition and the PPP Civic was done. There was no reason for the president to do this, except that he has absolutely no regard for the Constitution and for the people of this country who are governed by that supreme law.
So I think we can start taking some calls. But he came to office under a cloud of suspicion with this 4,005 votes, whatever the story was with the GECOM situation. And he knows he's not a popular president. He knows that if an election is called at any time, that's the end of him. So you put in place your man to ensure whatever decisions are made at GECOM, the semblance of balance, objectivity, neutrality, impartiality is derailed because you're putting a political operative who's beholden to you to run GECOM. The masses of the Guyanese people have to start speaking to this issue in all of the various forms. At the community level, at the regional level, at the national level. The PPPC will be taking this matter very seriously. But we expect civil society and other voices of reason, reasonable Guyanese, some of you who even supported the APNU AFC in the last elections, because you know the danger that this poses to the future of Guyana. This is halting the country. This is pushing us backwards. So I'm hoping that the operator will be able to start putting through the calls, because we see the calls have been coming in all the time. Let's see if we could get the first call. Good evening.
Good evening to you, Bishop Edghill. Good evening, Ms. Madison.
Good evening.
I was watching the news. I saw this is actually fake news. I was watching. I found it very strange that they were in the chairman at 8:30 at night. Mm-hmm. So it opened my head to a lot of things. And then I got a call from a friend of mine who's a lawyer, Ms. Anuman, and we came up with the suggestion that the reason why he did that was because Nandala can't go to the court and get an order, stuff like that. But I really think that Guyana has really gone down. We have passed way done. I don't know what else we can do right now. I told my mom not too long ago on the phone, I said, Mommy, Guyana has gone to hell in a handbasket. She said, no, son, there's always change, something could happen. But Mr. Manichan, I really hope that the KPP take this very serious, and I very hope that all these so-called NGOs and civil society, that they always open their mouth, come out and do something about it. Because in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer, but I have a knowledge of the law. But in my opinion, I think it's was unconstitutional. And I don't know what else is going to happen to Ghana right now.
Silence is not an option at this particular time for any Guyanese. If we remain silent now, we have no more rights in this country. Your rights will be stripped away before your eyes, and you won't be able to do nothing about it. We've been talking about the authoritarian nature of this regime, the dictatorial tendencies, the unconstitutional behavior, the interference in various places where they have no right, the trampling of democracy in the parliament, and people have remained silent. But I think this one...
I want to say this live on air. In my opinion, I don't think that David Granger is a president. I think he is a dictator. And to those who is not seeing the signs, I feel really sorry for them, because not even an eye specialist can help them.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Ma'am. Well, you know, it really saddens me to hear anyone say Guyana is going to hell in a handbasket, but I understood what she meant.
Hello?
I understand fully what you meant, because this is
Just hold 1 second.
horrid thing to happen to us tonight on this Diwali night. And it's not, she's right, we cannot sit by and let it happen. I think that is a surprise that the present president and his cabinet will get. This is not your 1980s. This is not going to go down the way it went down in 1980.
It's not even 2015.
Information, technology, access to information and so on, you didn't have back in those days. You could have done a lot of things without it getting uncovered. Now, within an hour of you making this announcement, the whole world knows you're about to do something unlawful and unconstitutional.
Let's take this call. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, ma'am.
Yes,
Good
sir.
evening.
I agree with the following caller. This Mr. Green is a dictator. He wants when we say jump, everybody must see our hands.
Well, that wouldn't happen, sir. The leadership of the People's Progressive Party, Civic, when we entered this 11th Parliament, the leader of the opposition said on the very first day, we will not be victims. And I will say to the people of Guyana tonight, with this unconstitutional, illegal, immoral, diabolical action of the president, we will not be victims. This will be dealt with in the manner in which it should be dealt with.
This decision is an eye-opening for the whole country.
It is. Well, we thank you for being up this late. We thank you for being interested in what's happening to your country. We're looking forward to your support over the coming days, weeks, and months in making sure this is reversed.
Thank you very much.
All right, good evening. Yes, this and it's important for us to hear the views of others. Good evening, welcome to this program.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening. Yes, good evening, you're on air.
Okay, good evening. There are a couple of ways which I think we can handle this matter.
Let's hear you.
First of all, PPP by themselves is just a couple of persons. They cannot do anything. It is us, Chinese, who've got to take the fight with this government. So I'm suggesting to you, as a business person, we have one day close all our business. All I know it's going to be difficult.
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes, you said a day to close all businesses.
Close all businesses for one day. That's the first thing we should do. To do. So take this matter to court, right? Up the stage of the
CCJ.
of this, right? Certain that we need to do is to find out, get all the persons who have capacity of all of the nations involved, and by that I mean United Nations, etc. I do not feel we would have a friend with the ABC countries, because in the first place, they put this government in office. But what we can do is to bring, like what Egan did years ago,
Thank you. Very important suggestion.
Sir, whoever you are, I love how you very quickly organized your thoughts and gave them to us in points for the benefit of this country. And like you said, who wins the next election? You don't care if it's APNU? I believe people's will must be given effect to. And so if for the next election Ghana wants the PNC and you choose them fairly, then the PNC is who must be this government. But whoever is the government must be chosen fairly. The people's will must be manifested in their choice, in the swearing in of a government. And that's what we see. And so thank you very much. We need more of you, and I know more people are like you have already begun to organize your thoughts around what needs to be done. I want to dispel this thought, though, that the ABC countries are
put the government in.
Either put the government in or are not going to be critical of or friends of democracy. These are countries themselves who struggle with, we've seen that on TV, we see that on TV all the time, struggle with their own problems in their own countries. But they do have an interest in making sure their neighbors and allies are run in a democratic way. And so I want to dispel the view that those countries are not going to be friendly to democratic moves. In fact, we will be writing, as you suggested,
internationalizing
all of the friends and allies of Guyana over the years, who have become friends and allies over the years, as well as the international bodies like the UN and so on. So thank you for putting those suggestions in. They will definitely be taken up to the leadership before the end of tonight, and you will see some of what you suggested happening.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Yes, go ahead. You want to turn your TV down, but go ahead.
Yes. Bishop, I was looking very, very intensely on your presentation there, and I think that what actually happens is that we, along with the other legal minds, should start a procedure to impeach the president.
For breach of the Constitution?
Yes.
All right, we take that suggestion.
And it is not only on one occasion, he has been doing it constantly.
Thank you for your suggestion.
Thank you, sir. And nothing is off the table. This is a president flying in the face of a constitution that has been interpreted by a court.
Let's get this call.
Can't set my short. Court said what it said.
Good evening.
Flying in the face of that.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Farah.
Yes, good evening, you're on live.
I would say I look to the TV and I look to what's going on in TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very contrary to what I heard here right now. Because this is a breach of contract to what the president is going to do.
What he's already done.
Well, by now he would have done it. I think it's after 8:30.
No, it's still 6 minutes after, almost 10 o'clock after 10. So he's already sworn in the gentleman as the chairman.
This is unconstitutional, what he's doing. And he's showing all three of the opposition away. And that it's not proper. So if that word is not proper, he is of age.
But he can be close to 9-10 by the next election.
I think he is stupid to do something wrong.
Well, it's people like you, sir, that have to start talking to 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 and start mobilizing at the ground level, because a president will listen to the masses of the people, and the president will wake up and discover that a significant majority of Guyanese are in disagreement. We will push this back.
Yes,
we will not sit and accept this with hands folded. We are making that very clear. We are going into a mode of non-cooperation. Right. This country can't run without the PPPC. Let me make that very clear.
Right.
We run 7 regions, 54 NDCs. This country can't go forward without the 49.2% of the people who voted for the PPPC. So if President Granger, Moses Nagamutu and Ramjatan think that they could insult us, breach the Constitution, and behave in a do-what-you-want attitude and everything is going to be hunky-dory, it will not be hunky-dory. This is an act of provocation that will be treated with the level that it needs to be treated with.
And I just want to be very, very clear. The names that were submitted to President Granger by Leader of the Opposition, Marjan Deo, did not take into consideration who was PPP, who black, who Indian, who woman, who man. We didn't take those things. Some of the people we recommended were our harshest critics. And I don't hold, they were doing their duty, that's my view. Not only their right to be critical of the then PPPC government, but they were actually doing their duty, which is to call out and hold to scrutiny people who were in public office. Some of those people we named to the list, we don't know. We are sure that some of them did not vote for us because they said so publicly in different forums, Facebook and wherever else. What we wanted was someone who would be fair, organized, brilliant, intelligent, sensible, and able to carry out the mandate of the GECOM, or the chairman of GECOM. So we didn't take into consideration some of these very partisan things that the president apparently has taken into consideration in his selection, unilateral selection of this GECOM chairman. We didn't do that. And so his rejection of those persons really reject everything that they stand for, everything that they represent. Youth, women, standing up for your rights, the freedom to speak, all of those things that people represent, business community, the professionals. He rejected all of that and rejected also all that they stood for. When he rejected.
Good evening and welcome to the program.
Hey, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
I'd just like to say tonight is definitely a dark night in Guyana.
Dark.
Very, very dark. And I'd like to see what the private sector would have to say about it. I think they should come out and mobilize. I think we should shut down the country for trade. I mean, this is terrible. And I'd also like to see what the diplomatic community have to say. Because they're the ones who preach for democracy. So I would like to see those things happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming through. Thank you for being up this late and being interested in your country. This is in fact breaking news that must be alarming every Guyanese as we speak. Both Guyanese living here as well as Guyanese in diaspora. And so we are very sorry to be the persons who are telling you about this, but we feel it's our duty to let you know.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a request that now the Guyanese people want to see how pale-faced the president is. And he has no time with nobody. He has no meaning for nobody's words. And he's going to do and show the people how much power he has and what he can do.
So what should we do in such a situation?
If the country got to shut down and everybody got to come out, let everybody come out. If you want betterment, you got to show what is betterment. That they don't show you what to do and what they want to do. Everybody has to come out at this point. Right? Everybody, doesn't matter who. Business people, everybody, doesn't matter who. Everybody got to come out on the street now. This is enough. Enough is enough. They have their time and they don't care about the people.
Right.
So everybody, young and old, the children, everybody got to bring out their children and everybody got to see the street. How they used to live the street. How they used to go and dunk and do anything. But they find that the Indian people and
Yeah. Well, this is an assault on all Guyanese. This is an assault. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for calling. Thank you for loving Guyana enough to make your contribution known. This is an assault on all of Guyana. This is an assault on all decent people everywhere in the world. Every time any country does anything to slip into a place where we could have a democratic reign or undemocratic reign, or we could have democratic institutions being under siege, then what we have to do is, as a human being,
good night, caller,
rise up against that.
Hey, good night. Everything that has been said was true. But I have a little problem. And my problem is that how are we going to get ABC country out of this place? As long as ABC is here, Granger would stay here. Don't mind how much bloodshed. Don't mind what happened. Don't mind who we go to. Granger would stay here. You know why? When it was boredom time, election is tomorrow, results was to be already. So, brother, back to boredom days. Don't mind how much we fight. Don't mind where we go. As long as we cannot get the ABC country out of the sale, because they have been given what they wanted. They have been given the eye. There is nothing Jack Dale could say would stop that ice from flowing to America. As long as Granger is the president of this country, the ABC will be there dictating for us. And that is the problem. You explain to us how you're going to, we guys, going to get ABC out of this court, out of this land. Just explain that one thing. And we will take the streets. As long as you cannot remove the ABC, nothing will happen. The Granger would use the police and the army to beat people off the road. Trust me, you want to see. That decision of leaving tonight is a disgrace, it's a rash, and that is more than dictatorship. Just to explain to this nation on the national TV how we're going to get the ABC out of the same. Them is the one that's running this country. That's right, not that Mutu, not Ramjapan. ABC. What they say goes.
All right, sir. That's
Taxation. You hear what they said? For a country to develop, has to have tax. This is a third world country. The PV have half what the tax they put on the PV only a quarter. The board met the Guyanese was not much. Today, people are just working for bills. Who banks, who courts, who bigger. And who have had their children to send to school, they have nothing left. People is borrowing money right now. Business is not booming because of dictatorship. I am saying, just explain to us, look, we're going to get the ABC out, and we're going to fight for our rights. As long as we cannot, and you acknowledge that too, I am sure you acknowledge that. As long as the ABC is here, dictating, they is the one who dictated for this administration. And the administration is passed down on us.
all right, sir. I would ask Ms. Manichan to respond to you, but let me just say this briefly for this caller and all other Guyanese that are listening. The international community, which includes the American, the British, the Canadians, and the European Union, and all of our developmental partners have a great role to play in Guyana. They are not to be interfering with the internal affairs of the state. Part of that diplomatic agreement that exists is a position of non-interference. They bring their influence, they bring their aid, they bring their ideas, and you work out programs. This perception that specific countries have influenced a government to act in a particular way is one that needs to be carefully looked at. It's one that needs to be addressed. But we know, while we were in government, the Americans, the British, the Canadians, the European Union, the World Bank, the IDB, the CDB, all of our development partners were here. They were always welcome. When we have disagreements, we told them when we disagree with them. They have roles to play. But we have to ensure that the decisions in Guyana are made by Guyanese in keeping with the Constitution.